Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. Let's start our video with a few stories about more beggars who want everything for free. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. We know you're doing this for free, so I'm a student filmmaker, which means I often work for just expenses, pay my train fare to get to you, and I'll give you around 20 hours of work for free. However, because this type of work is so common in the industry when you're starting out, people seem to think that your work is worth nothing because they can find someone to do it for nothing. Here are TLDRs of my favorite situations. You're filming our event for free, and that's nice, but also why don't you edit it and refilm and edit the sound? Also, we need it a week earlier than the normal due date. Don't get an attitude with me, you knew the risks. And my refusal to work through the night with no food. We had to shoot at 6 a.m. the next day, and this woman wanted me to edit all night so she could see the footage from the first shoot in the morning. For free, with no food and no warning. My response? Don't get an attitude with me. I'm a volunteer and can walk away anytime. I think working with you ain't worth putting up with you. Keep it up and you get exactly what you pay for. Nothing. Another who wanted me to teach him to edit sound for free. Whatever, I'll help you out. We all started somewhere. Refused to edit on anything but the highest quality industry standard software that I don't even own. And our next story. Try and sue us after effing up? Get fired instead. When my second year of university rolled around, I was living with 3 other friends in a property we rented through a letting agency, which had a ridiculous pun for a name, but go off, and the house initially was perfectly fine. We moved in at the beginning of August and had no problems for a while. When they asked early on whether we wanted to sign a contract for next year, we said sure, and signed a new contract in November, due to start the next academic year. We know this was a F-up in hindsight, but really didn't think we'd have serious issues. However, when it started getting colder in winter months after a mild autumn, we realized that our boiler was absolutely god-awful. It'd fail about once a week, barely heat the radiators, and wouldn't heat rooms, and would need repressuring each time it died. Being students and not too wise about renting, we just put up with this at first, dutifully emailing the agents every time it broke, and waited for them to send someone out. In the meantime, the busted boiler meant that the hot water was dodgy, sometimes cutting out, and that the house was freezing, and as such, the monthly utility bills were through the roof. One was almost 1.5 times that month's rent. Since the boiler was essentially now a very expensive kettle, and we needed office heaters on almost constantly so we didn't get frostbite, we could constantly see our breath and practically needed to be fully dressed to sleep. This caused issues. Constant colds for one guy, mold growing in the bathroom since we didn't ventilate well as to not lose the little heat the house retained, and being unable to dry our clothes. We didn't have a tumble dryer, just a clothes horse. We were fed up and decided we wanted out of the new contract. Because we went through an agency, we had no direct contact with the landlord. Every query and contact was through the agents. This is important to remember for later. The agents, while very polite over the phone and in person, were flaky and bad at fixing problems, and it took months for them to send a gas man over, and even then it was just to renew safety certs, and he didn't even do his job right. So a couple weeks later, another guy was called out when it broke. The landlord even comes for this visit to make sure there are no more F-ups, and this is our first time meeting her. She was a bit of a soccer mom type, but she seemed to be sorting it, and the issue was kind of fixed, as well as an ancient boiler that really needed replacing could be fixed. This was the last time we talked to them directly. Through the whole process, my parents had been helping us document things. My mom being a solicitor and my dad being a landlord himself, so they knew their stuff. They were grumbling about the agents from the start, but for us it was easier to just put up with most of the BS since uni work was stressful enough without all this. Taking the offhand advice given to us by the agents at the beginning of the tenancy, we kept great records and pictures of every document, email, and letters we received, and took pictures of problems and work being carried out for record keeping. We eventually figured they'd try and shaft us in some form sooner or later, so evidence was needed. We emailed them over the break, officially saying we wanted out of next year's tenancy. They were amiable and said that if we could get someone else to take it, sure, but were very adamant that if we didn't, we had to keep paying rent for that contract. We have house viewings and we advertise for months, but we get nowhere. At this point, tensions are rising, and my mom has taken our challenge as a personal hobby to sort out legally. Since we'd initially tried to be low-maintenance tenants and deal with small issues, our contract stated that any issues related to the property needed to be sorted by the landlords or the agents in case we caused further damage trying to do repairs. We instead decided to do exactly what our contract said. We emailed them constantly about every tiny issue we had, from a broken light bulb to a frosty letter flap. We knew our contracts from front to back, the local laws around renting, and asked the uni about student renting for specific detail. Getting permission to change a light bulb became a bit of an inside joke to us at this point. How many working days is it going to take to change it this time? 3 to 5? It's Friday night. We made sure we complied with every single thing they asked us to do in order to leave this new contract, like advertise, accommodate all viewings, keep them updated about anyone who was interested, etc. We went above and beyond trying to get some poor suckers to take this house off our hands. We emailed constantly through this for a paper trail. We made sure we could document this entire thing. It was stressful, but my parents assured us things would work out, and knowing we were annoying them as much as they annoyed us helped. When we move out at the end of the first tenancy and hand our keys in with explicit letters saying we were not returning for the next contract, we waited for crap to hit the fan. A few weeks later, while I'm on holiday, we all get emails forwarded from the landlord via the agents saying that unless we immediately found new tenants or agreed to stay on, they'd sue us. Scare tactics, pretty much. This was also the first time we had an email directly forwarded from the landlord, since usually the agents just passed on any info, etc. in their own words. The landlord said they had no notification saying we wanted out of the new tenancy, that it was out of the blue, and therefore they weren't able to advertise for new tenants. So we dutifully sent them a large email with screenshots and pictures of email notifications of house viewings, emails about potential takers, the original emails about us not wanting to take the contract with the date 6 months beforehand, clearly highlighted, and waited. After a quiet period, we got an almost sullen-sounding email saying they would drop it if we paid 4 months' rent from the new contract, since although there was an error in communication, we still did not fulfill our end and provide replacement tenants. So out rolls another long email with photos of everything the agents had effed up, including the dodgy gas man visit. Came to learn what he did was illegal and potentially dangerous, and it was the agent's job to make sure he did his job right. The fact that the new contract signing was botched in the first place due to the agent's error, and one of our housemates had bought a laser thermometer to document how cold the rooms were, sometimes as low as 8 degrees Celsius, 45 Fahrenheit, and had taken pictures of readings, so there was a heavy implication that the house was not suitable for habitation during that time. We haven't received a single email since then, and when the bus goes past the house, I see that the letting sign has been changed to a different company, and the house is no longer available through the original agency. So they got fired by the landlords for effing up so much. I feel smug every time I go past. And our last story. Old boss steals my money. A few years back now, I worked for a smallish, locally owned company owned by 2 friends. The company was going strong when I started, but after 10 years, the place was going downhill fast. One day, we discovered the bosses had not been making superannuation payments to us, my country's required retirement fund that employees and employers are required to pay into, for over 2 years, owing tens of thousands over all the employees. This was the final straw for me. I gave them 2 weeks' notice. As I was basically the last manager there, most of the employees also quit with me, and this really pissed off the owners who thought I was somehow overreacting. I made them ensure they would pay me what was owed, or I would get the tax agency involved. A few weeks later, I get an email detailing repayments significantly less than what was owed. When I emailed back, they told me they had taken hours I owed in time of lieu of what was owed in superannuation, and if I had a problem with that, they would have no issue speaking to the authorities about the hours I stole from them. This is, of course, highly illegal. For one, we had no contract laying out that I would have to repay owed hours. Secondly, they most definitely cannot take that money from my superannuation repayments. I decided not to reply, saved the email, and moved straight on to the tax agency. They look after superannuation affairs. This took a very long time as the process is very slow. But after about a year and several different tax representatives, one day I got a call out of the blue from one of the owners. This was a very angry, threatening call asking why I'd reported them to the tax agency and why I was determined to ruin their lives. I told him exactly why I did it and that he reaped what he sowed. A few days later, I get an email from the tax agency telling me they'll be repaying all that was owed plus interest accrued over the now 3+ years they didn't pay. They would also have been put on a blacklist of employers had they not sold the business a few months after we left. For more background, after I quit, I took 2 weeks off to be alone with my thoughts and relax for a bit before accepting one of the many job offers I received once my departure had been made public in our industry. I walked away with higher pay, a more secure job, and the position every company in the industry was fighting for at the time, as the company I chose won the contract and they gave the position to me. I like how they try to make it emotional. Why did you report our wrongdoing? What did we ever do to you? LOL. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.